skull and bones.
So what we're gonna do first, the first clue is basically telling us that we need to find out where the brother went. He's been sighted in Bandari settlement, so we're gonna be sailing towards that destination. But before we do that, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the region we're in and how does it fit with our world context.
Well, so in the world context, this is the golden age of piracy, and so this game is a historical fiction, and so we're really basing a lot of our choices in the game on being inspired by the region of the Indian Ocean and the factions that can be found there at that time. And during this time period, there is a desire from the West for all the luxurious goods that were discovered here by the West, discovered from their point of view. And crew are jumping overboard to essentially enter the settlement and begin the plundering action. And so the fantasy here is as we're out here fighting and holding our ground, they're in the settlement scampering around, stealing whatever they can get their hands on and looking for the thing that in this case we're looking for, which is the next clue in our investigation. And as you can see, those different stops across the top of the screen of what will happen during the plundering action if we survive is they will start sending out what they find while our crew is in there on small ships for us to pick up. So if they do their job right, we will get our clue in the first package, and then we can make our escape. Obviously, the longer the battle goes on, the more at risk we're at here in this kind of confined space.
Yeah, but that's also how you get the highest rewards, right?
Exactly. So if you can stick it out all the way to the end, of course you're going to plunder a heck of a lot, but as you can see here, we are facing stiff competition.
Yeah, so my strategy usually when we plunder settlement is the beginning's pretty chill, I want to say, all things considered.
Yep.
So what I try to do is I try to damage the tower first before all the big reinforcements come in. But in that case, we're getting a lot of heat from those flamethrowers.
Yes,
so
it's not super chill at the moment, it turns out. And the tower is also, I see that you're taking some heavy hits from the tower.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, depending on the enemy you're facing, obviously you can see that there's different weak spots you can hit for extra damage, but they're also going to have different kind of weapons who might inflict different kind of damage on your ship, so you need to be kind of prepared for that as well.
Yes. Having a well-rounded strategy never hurts, because, as we mentioned, things will go wrong.
Yes.
And it is quite chaotic at the moment, but
I think we're almost there. Yeah, yes. I just got the clue, so now we can run away.
Let's do it
before all the big trouble comes.
Perfect.
So if you just follow me, I know where we're going.
Okay.
Alright, so like you can see on the screen, we're leaving the plunder area now, so that means any potential loot, extra loot that we could have gotten will be forfeited at this point.
Oh boy.
But we don't care because we have what we need.
Yeah, our escape is not yet guaranteed though.
Yes.
That's fair to say.
And there's, like you were saying before, there's the Company Royale fighting here with local factions, so you can see some of that conflict happening right here.
Yeah, and that's part of the living world of Skull and Bones, and in this case, I think it's going to work to our advantage here, because the Confederation of Iguana is going to be sort of torn about who to aggro more, us or the Company Royale.
Alright, so far so good. I'm going to use a repair kit just to fix my ship a little bit.
Yep.
I've seen better days. How's it looking for you? Are you able to make it out alive?
Yeah, I'm going to be okay. I'm kind of running close to this Company Royale ship, so I'm going to be curious to see. They don't seem to have any issue with us, but hopefully... Oh, yeah. Yep, so they're under attack from the Confederation of Iguana, which is great news.
Cool.
Because that means I'm getting away.
It's quite ironic that we're being saved by the same people that we just attacked.
Yes.
But I think it's looking good, man. At least on my side, it's looking like it's gonna get quiet soon.
Nice. Passing a shipwreck here.
Yeah, there's a lot of flamethrower action behind you. Alright, so I'm gonna drop anchor on here, and I'm gonna start
factions if you have an aggro with a specific faction.
It's also a place you can kind of meet other players and socialize with other players as well, right?
Of course.
Damn, fully multiplayer. Cool. So now we know that our next destination is going to be that Bannery settlement. I'm going to talk about it a bit later as we get closer to it. But our objective is going to be to plunder that settlement to find the next clue, right?
Yes.
But for now, as we're sailing, maybe there's more you can tell us about the exact region we're in and the regions of Skull and Bones in general.
Yeah, so we're in the coast of Africa region here, and as you can see from the landscape, it's a bit of a arid landscape compared to some of the others in the game. And here, there's two major factions. There's the Confederation of Iguana, who are really more the local faction who've historically been here, and they're a nomadic faction and quite aggressive faction in terms of the game. But the thing about the people from the Confederation of Iguana is that they're nomadic partially by circumstances, and part of those circumstances is the fact that the Company Royale has moved into the location, and the Company Royale is really a mega corporation from France, and they're the colonial power who has disrupted the lives of the Confederation of Iguana, and there's a whole backstory and quite a bit of lore that can build up that sort of relationship.
Yeah, so one of the cool things about all this as well is that as we're sailing through and we see other ships passing us, the more you play the game, the more you find out that these ships actually have a lot of elements on them that are giving you information, right? First of all, you can see the equipments they have. So the ships we just passed, for example, they were equipped with a lot of cargo, but also the sails and the emblems they have will tell you which faction do they belong to and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, of course. So there's visual identifiers. There's all kinds of things that really help bring authenticity to the different factions in the game, whether it's visual, linguistic, you name it.
So a lot of work went to like making sure that when you're sailing through the coast of Africa, you feel that you're actually on the coast of Africa.
Absolutely.
There's also a lot of other elements like the wildlife, the vegetation, all of these things that make you really feel like you are actually sailing the coast of Africa, which is very nice.
Yeah, and if you want, there is wildlife in the waters that you can be hunted by players, but not with the ships that we're sailing right now. Of course, Skull and Bones has all different kinds of ships, and you're encouraged to use those different ships in different ways. Some are better for combat, some are better for fast navigation, some for carrying large loads. And of course, there are very small ships that can go through narrow waterways and are useful for essentially hunting water-based animals. And so that is an opportunity that we could explore in the coast of Africa, but because I think we're trying to complete our investigation, we'll have to do that next time.
So I know that there's actually a lot of rivers to explore. Luckily for us, the rivers we're in now are large enough for us to sail with those rather large ships.
Yep.
But like you said, like some rivers you're gonna have to basically switch to a smaller ship, which might not be as well equipped. But that'll be the only way to get some of the resources that the region has to offer, right?
Yep. And so it pays to have a varied fleet of ships, it's fair to say.
Yes. All right. So we're going to get closer to that settlement in just a little bit. There's a couple of information that we need to keep in mind when we get closer. First of all, so far nobody's really bothering about us because we're just not being very aggressive, right? But the moment we attack the settlement, that's going to change, obviously.
Yeah.
That settlement belongs to the local faction. But we're not here to actually plunder any resources. We're here to find the clue. So what we're going to do before we start the plundering is we are going to plan our escape route to make sure that we don't get into too much trouble.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm almost there now. But essentially, yeah, that's the key thing about Skull and Bones. When you want to engage the combat, depending on your objective, you want to make sure you're prepared for it. So if you want to plunder all the way, then you need to make sure you're ready for a long fight. On the other hand, if you're just looking for one specific item, then you want to plan an escape and you want to make sure that you can run away without getting too much heat. Because the way the plunder feature works is that the longer the fight goes on, the harder it gets, the more there's going to be reinforcements, and the more aggressive these reinforcements are going to get.
But if I've learned anything playing the game, things will go wrong. So let's see what can happen.
So hopefully we'll make it alive. So while we're talking, we just arrived at our final destination, our third outpost called the Pilot Tom. I'm going to show you a little bit how that place looks because it looks quite amazing. But I also want to, I would like to ask you a bit more about NPCs in the game in general and like different vendors and
Yeah, so we have vendors or hawkers, you might call them, who are the people who are really going to sell you all the different things in the world that you are able to buy and consume, and there is many. I mean, when it comes to ingredients for upgrading your ship,
My goodness.
things to feed your crew,
Good to see
uh,
another
things
pirate on the
for
shore.
upgrading your weapons,
Time sails.
upgrading your
Ship's
appearance,
old.
all those kinds of things you're going to get through
To the
hawkers,
my
as well
ways.
as
If
the
you have
ability
silver
to
to
take on new
spare,
contracts, new
suppose I could trade
opportunities,
you for designs
maybe
and
even pay
blueprints.
off factions. Like, for example, if we had an ongoing feud with the Confederation of Iguana based on
Gods.
Hmm.
our plunder earlier, we could potentially pay off somebody at a outpost like this who's related to that faction. Um, but in addition to those characters, we also have pirate kingpins in our world. And so I
Hmm.
mentioned John Skurlock a minute ago. He's one of the first pirate kingpins that players are going to meet, and he really stands as an example of the kind of kingpin the player is going to want to become.
Cool. So I like that you said he's one of the first because I know there's more. I know we can't talk about it yet, but I know there's more. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I also believe that when you start engaging with those kingpins, they will look at you based on your reputation. They will look at you based on your actions, and depending on that, you might get different contracts. Is that
Absolutely. I mean, the whole world of Skull and Bones is about infamy, and so the player really starts as an outcast, and they want to rise and become an infamous kingpin, and so those contracts and those relationships you're going to build with other kingpins are going to grow and change based on your infamy in the world. And actually, one of the things I'm really proud of is the whole world of Skull and Bones is very reactive. So the actions the player does, the infamy they gain, the other characters in the world really recognize it and respond to that.
cool? Another thing I really like about Outposts in general is that sometimes you're just walking around, not really sure. You're not necessarily looking for anything specific. In our case, we are looking for something specific. I'm just, enjoying the scenery a little bit. But then every now and then you pass by something and you hear weird sounds. And I know that there's a lot of stuff in the game out there, and I've asked around like what's going on, and nobody really knows.
Well, there are certainly surprises, treasures, tricks, and everything to be found in these areas, in these outposts. And I will spoil nothing.
Yeah, no, and there's a lot to discover. I've played the game quite a lot myself, and there's a lot of outposts I still haven't fully explored. So all that being said, I still haven't found this treasure. So from the clue, if I remember correctly, it said that the treasure is buried in a stone circle grave kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna try to find it.